US President Donald Trump insists he won't oppose the release of documents related to the search of his Mar-a-Lago home. The Justice Department is asking a judge to unseal the search warrant and property receipt.
I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter.
Attorney General Merrick Garland says the decision to seek the legal authorization to search former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home was not taken lightly. Now, a new report from the Washington Post citing anonymous sources says classified documents relating to nuclear weapons were among the items that FBI agents looked for.
We have intelligence about our own capacities that we wouldn't want to share with adversaries. We also have our own assessments of adversaries' capacities that we would not want to be public.
On his Truth Social platform, Trump said he wouldn't oppose the release of the court documents, and he slammed the nuclear weapons issue as a hoax.
Both the Department of Justice and the Trump people have said they want full disclosure. Well, let's have at it, because somebody is not telling the truth here.
Still, legal experts say the search warrant and the property receipt, which the DOJ also filed to make public, are unlikely to give the public the answers they want.
What's going to be really frustrating, I think, for a lot of us that are following this very closely is that the inventory is going to be redacted.
The Justice Department has not asked to unseal the affidavit of probable cause, which would detail how authorities believe a crime was committed.
Joining us is Peter Mathews, Professor of Political Science at Cypress College in LA. Great to see you, Professor. How are you?
Good to see you, Jamie. I'm doing well, thank you.
Nice to hear. Well, we just heard it's not likely that we'll get the answers that the public want, but what can you tell us on this situation?
Well, we do know a few facts. One of them is that this material was not supposed to be transferred from the White House to Mar-a-Lago. It belonged to the government. Any material that's produced when someone's in government, whether it be a lower level bureaucrat or the United States president, that material belongs to the government. It has to be cleared by the National Archives if he's going to get any of it for himself. But he took it. And at that time, back in January, I think it was, when the people asked, the FBI asked him for whatever documents he had. The archives actually asked him, and they went to try to find it. And he produced about 14 boxes worth of material. That much of it was classified. And then there was a hint also in May or so that all the material hadn't been produced. So the FBI decided to get a search warrant. And when they did get a search warrant and searched his place, Mar-a-Lago, recently, they found another 11 classified document troves. 11 of them with like another 12 boxes or so, 12 or 13 boxes. And so there's a lot more material that has been gotten by the government that he had in his possession, probably illegally, but we don't know yet until we know exactly what was in there and what the search warrant says.
And Professor, we're also hearing that former US President Donald Trump has declared the nuclear weapons issue as a hoax.
That's just unbelievable. He would just come out and say that, because this is very serious. It's not just regular material that he produced when he was president, but it had the charge in the warrant is that it's nuclear weapons related or nuclear weapons strategic related, something to do with nuclear weapons itself. And that's very dangerous, because that's something that our adversaries and enemies should not know about, what kind of weapons we have or what the strategies are or tactics that could be used to defend the United States. That could all be compromised in that case, because there were many foreign leaders and others who used to visit Mar-a-Lago, and these documents were just laying around basically in either his basement or another room. It wasn't secured, and that's the problem. Has he jeopardized the safety of the United States, in which case he might be guilty of violating the Espionage Act. That's the most serious violation, the Espionage Act. We don't know yet. Again, we have to look at all the details, and what's going to be produced today will not give us all the details right away.
Also, turning to other news, the House is set to pass an important piece of legislation marking recent weeks of success for the Democrats. Talk us through the latest.
Yes, there was the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed today, and was really wonderful for a lot of Democrats, because they feel finally they accomplished something, because of the fact that they do have the majority in both the Senate and the House and the presidency. If they came out empty-handed or near empty-handed, the voters would have punished them in the midterm elections. This time, this act actually brings in about over $300 billion for climate change and energy, clean energy transfer, going into that kind of system to bring us to fighting climate change and reducing greenhouse gases. About $300 billion, the most amount that's been spent on this kind of venture, and that's quite remarkable. Also, there were about another $300 billion that was raised through taxes, higher taxes on corporations and minimum tax, actually. in order to bring down the deficits. That also pleased the conservatives to bring the budget deficit down by $300 billion or so, and also invest in clean energy. And don't forget, there's also drug pricing. There was one provision that was quite a new type of provision that we'll be able to get, and that was to force the drug companies to reduce the cost of drugs by having the government bargain with them. It wasn't for all the drugs, especially insulin. That was a tragedy. Insulin was neglected in this, but other drugs, other prescription drugs, prices will come down. All this will help the Democrats in the next election, but most importantly, help the American people, from my point of view.
US inflation slipped this week from a 40-year peak, but it still remains high, doesn't it, at around 8.5%?
Yes, and that's a real problem for the economy and for President Biden and for Democrats as well, because they're in office when this has happened. And 8% is a huge amount of inflation, although it's leveled off a bit from 9% down to 8.5% or so. And it hasn't gone down further yet, but it's got some time to do that. And that's hurting a lot of people. A lot of working middle-class people are having a very difficult time at the grocery store, being able to keep up with the bills, being able to keep up with the gasoline prices, because a lot of us are driving gasoline cars. But the electric car incentives will be helping out, but not immediately. That's the problem. People are suffering right now because of prices and the increase in prices that's cutting their budgets. So inflation is a huge problem at this point, and hopefully it will be worked out and brought down eventually.
And finally, Professor, the award-winning author Salman Rushdie has been attacked while on stage in New York. What are you hearing from where you are?
It was horrendous. It's a terrible thing because his life has been threatened and in danger for so long after he wrote the book, the Satanic Verses. He was put under complete, danger from the people who are so radicalized that they want to kill him. And apparently, I don't know the details of what happened today. I do know he was stabbed, I believe, but I don't know who exactly did it yet and the details of that. But we'll find out, and it's good. It's a terrible tragedy, and we have to try to protect people who speak out freely in their own conscience.
All right. Well, Professor Peter Mathews, always great to see you. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Jamie. Same here.